Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world, one book at a time.
So today we're diving into Valerio Quaglia's book, Wounded Masculinities. And this one helps us get a handle on a really complex system, the way our social ideas about masculinity slam into the physical reality of chronic illness. And why does this matter? Well, because in our world, self-care is never just a simple act. It's loaded with social meaning. And more, being healthy is seen as a kind of personal moral report card.
So what Quaglia does here is some really fascinating sociological research. He focuses specifically on men with type 1 diabetes, and he looks at how they're constantly forced to figure out who they are, to negotiate their very identity, while being squeezed between strict medical rules on one side and these powerful social expectations of what a man is supposed to be on the other.
Okay, so here's the absolute core idea of the book. Chronic illness creates what you could call a crisis of control. It's a direct assault on the pillars of traditional masculinity. You know, the idea that you have to be invulnerable, totally independent, and always in control. But here's the thing. Men don't just throw up their hands. They adapt. They find these really recognizable strategies to take back that sense of control and status.
Quaglia zeroes in on three main strategies, or ideal types, as sociologists call them, that men use to work through this identity crisis. Now, these aren't just random personality quirks, they're actually really coherent, logical playbooks for dealing with this fundamental clash between the body and our social ideals. Let's break them down. First up, we've got a strategy that Quaglia calls the tracker. This is the guy who looks at all the uncertainty of his illness and decides to fight back with data. He leans hard into technology, numbers, and just meticulous self-monitoring. What's so wild here is how the tracker turns what's basically a medical chore into a performance of masculine skill. You know, tracking glucose levels, calculating insulin, that stuff becomes a way to prove competence, to show mastery over a body that feels vulnerable. He's taking back control by basically becoming the CEO of his own biology, which lines up perfectly with those ideals of being rational and technically skilled. So you see, it's not really just about staying healthy, it's about using the act of staying healthy to project a certain identity. By mastering all that data, the tracker can still present himself to the world as that rational, competent, in-control guy, even when his own body is unpredictable. All right, so the second strategy also revolves around performance, but in a much more physical, visible way. Let's meet the athlete. For this guy, the body isn't just a spreadsheet to be managed, it's a machine to be pushed, tested, and proven. Now, the athlete isn't just going for a light jog like his doctor might suggest. No, he's training for marathons, doing intense endurance sports. And why? Because every finish line he crosses builds what the book calls masculine capital. These achievements are hard, tangible proof of his strength and control. He's literally turning his body from a potential site of weakness into a source of power and pride.
I mean, that really captures the defiant spirit, doesn't it? It's a way of shouting to the world, my illness does not get to set my limits. It's a very public performance designed to completely overwhelm any perception of vulnerability that might come with having a chronic condition.
And that brings us to our final strategy, which kind of throws the first two playbooks out the window. This one is called the free spirit, and his main tool is simple: resistance. The free spirit builds his sense of masculinity by actively pushing back against the rules. He's all about pleasure, freedom, and just feeling normal. So he performs his independence by taking risks. You know, eating what he wants, maybe skipping a blood sugar check, all to prove that the illness is not the boss of him. It's his way of refusing to be put in that patient box. By framing something so serious as just a nuisance, the free spirit is fighting to hold on to his identity as an independent person. For him, the risk of mismanaging his health is actually less threatening than the risk of losing his autonomy.
So when you put these three strategies side by side, you can see the pattern, right? The tracker finds control through data, so he refines the rules. The athlete finds it through performance, so he exceeds the rules. And the free spirit finds it through defiance, so he resists the rules. They're all just different answers to the exact same problem. To really tie all this together, the book gives us this fantastic visual metaphor. Instead of thinking of these as three different kinds of people, picture them as different modes on a single control panel, an identity system for dealing with this crisis.
So when that feeling of being out of control starts to creep in, a guy can flip a switch. He can go into monitor mode and use data like the tracker. Or he can shift into perform mode and use his body like the athlete. Or he can hit the defy button and resist the rules like the free spirit. Each mode is just a different way of running the same core operating system, the system of masculinity.
But, and this is a huge but, the book makes it crystal clear that these are not just individual choices made in a bubble. These strategies are being powerfully shaped by the huge cultural forces that we all swim in every day.
A really key idea here is something called healthism. It's that cultural pressure we all feel that frames our health as a purely personal, almost moral achievement. It's the subtle message that if you get sick, well, it's probably your fault somehow. This pressure helps explain why these men feel such an intense need to perform their health in these very specific ways.
So when you add all that up, you get to the book's ultimate point. The way we take care of ourselves, or choose not to, is never really just a personal choice. It's a constant social negotiation, all tangled up in our culture's ideas about gender, about power, and about what it even means to be a person.
Which leaves us with one last big question to chew on. Is self-care ever truly just for the self? For the full, long-form, deep dive into this book and its ideas, follow the link in the description. If you enjoy this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics we should explore next.